Warning, the following program is designed for casual wrestling fans and is meant purely for entertainment. If you're SAWFT, proceed at your own risk. Viewer discretion is advised.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm Stone Cold.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy We Too Deep, and we are back with another episode of the Slap and Meat Wrestling Podcast. It is the Tuesday show. If this is your first time watching, thank you for joining. Like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about it. This is unfortunately going to be a not usual Tuesday episode of the podcast. Just got word from my co-host DJ Wavy D that he wouldn't be able to participate tonight. He had a family issue show up. I don't feel like it's my place to put his business out there. I'll just say, send him your thoughts and prayers. And whenever he's, wanting to share with all that, with the rest of us, I'm sure you guys could, private message him and all that. And yeah. So, I'll let him, I'll let him give that when he feels comfortable. Not my place to put that out on the show. But with that, we're the show got to go on. I'm sure he'd want the show to go on. And so we will continue with that. We're going to continue with what is originally planned. It's going to be a little bit different, as it's not going to be as much back and forth, which is fine. So we'll jump right on into our Let's Get Cooking segment. And the question we're covering, and what I'll say with this, for Wavy D when he listens to this, if you want to answer all the questions in the Discord, even put up your Let's Get Cooking answers or whatever, you can definitely answer that in the Discord. And if y'all want to see that when he's ready to put that answer up there, go join the Discord, link in the description. So the prompt for the Let's Get Cooking tonight is, how do you book Rusev and Malachi Black back into WWE? And with Rusev, I think it's a little bit easier. I personally would put him, and I know we've done like a League of Nations type thing with Rusev, but when I immediately think of Rusev, I just think of anti-American heel. That's just sort of like the Rusev was at his best when he was anti-American heel against John Cena, right? That's when I liked Rusev the best. Like the Rusev Day stuff was fun and all. I think anti-American heel fits him best. And I think maybe a new and improved like Imperium with him, Dragunov, Kaiser, and Gunther. I think that'll work very well, actually. And just sort of have him go out, even if he's just like the mid-card, because Dragunov and Kaiser can be the tag team because they are similar build and shape, and I think they could get over. Miro or Rusev could go after the IC title picture, and I think that'll be very fun. And then have Gunther sort of in that picture, or even if you do like Gunther and Rusev as tag team, and then the other two go after the titles, or in some way, shape, or however you want to do it. I think it would be very fun to see like a new, like especially if we're gonna lean Gunther into the anti-American stuff, right? Malachi Black's a little bit more difficult. I think I don't have specific like storylines for these two because I'm not exactly certain. First off, I don't even know if they're coming back. I just assume they are. Malachi Black, I'm more positive that he is. And for me, unfortunately, because of the way he looks, and it's not like a negative, but because of the tattoos and the aura he presents, there's only so much you can do with a Malachi Black. Like, you can't have him come in and be like the goody two shoes, you know, all American football player, right? Because he doesn't fit that aesthetic. And so for me, like, I would love to have him come in and join Karrion Kross and actually do something with the pairing. I think that'll be very fun. They're both sort of the mysterious, sort of, I don't want to say spooky, but like supernatural-esque type gimmick. And yeah, so that's that. Let's talk about SmackDown and Raw over the last week, right? SmackDown, as always, not necessarily super exciting. Not much really happened that I can remember. I know Tiffany had a segment or a match. Yeah, she had her title match against Nia, which she, of course, retained. Naomi qualified for the Elimination Chamber. And so that's all fine and dandy, but again, SmackDown just has this issue, I think, where it really just fails to command interest for the full 3 hours. There's a lack of real storytelling throughout the whole show, and it's a hard watch because a lot of it, like, I feel like watching it on Friday, like 50% of the show is in picture, which makes it very difficult to watch and to stay interested in. Whereas Raw, on the other hand, now this was where I wanted to really talk about with Wavy on this, and we can have this conversation next week when we predict Elimination Chamber as well. I was in the arena live for Monday Night Raw. And so I have a very different perspective, I believe, on this episode than maybe what y'all watching the show would have. And so for me, we'll talk about that experience. I thought the show was fantastic. I do. Not 10 out of 10. It's really hard to sit through that after I sat through Vengeance Day on Saturday, which I gave you my review on Sunday of in an episode. And so it's really hard to sit through that show and like compare it, but it's a PLE versus a televised show. I thought the crowd did good. The North Carolina crowd, and this is my first question. To those who watched the show, if you can answer this for me, answer in the comments of this video. To those who watched Monday Night Raw, did the crowd seem dead? Because when in the arena, like, I'm not kidding, my watch went off 5 to 7 times of the loud environment, right? Alert, right? And so I, sitting in the arena, thought the crowd was hot for about 90% of the night. During some of the promos, we were a little quiet. I know during the Ivy Nile and Dakota Kai match, it got a little quiet because a lot of people, especially like people sitting around me, used it as a bathroom break and a chance to go get a drink or something from the concessions, right? And that's not a negative. I think that's what that match was designed to do. And it's really hard to keep, because like it was really hard for everyone to be like me. When I sit down, I don't get back up into the end of the show. And I don't buy concessions from sporting events at all because of the prices are way too overpriced for me to justify when I could, wait an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours and go to a gas station and get the same bottle of soda for 50% of the price, right? But so how did the TV? Because here's how I feel. and what I think happens a lot of times, I feel like WWE lowers the volume on the crowd mics, and you kind of have to, right? WWE fans and wrestling fans in general say some random things during the show that you definitely don't want on the television, right? So if you guys watched Raw, there was that Dakota Kai promo after she won the number one contender, and she did that promo with Vic Joseph. She was quite literally 30 feet in front of me, where they were filming this interview. And my entire section, me and like 6 other dudes who I've never met before, were screaming, "We love you, Dakota," during her promo, right? Just screaming it. And to my knowledge, no one ever mentioned anything about it. So my assumption is the mics never picked it up. I know she did because she sort of gave like a little like head nod during it was right before they went on camera, right? And then we did it again while she was talking. So I to my knowledge, it didn't make TV, right? But so I do believe they turned down the mics in the crowd, so it may seem quieter than it is. Now, I do know like the big controversy was during the main event, Finn and Seth. The crowd seemed a little dead. So I will say with this, that match was very low energy. It had very little meaning. We knew Seth was going to win. And I personally believe after 2.5 hours, basically at that point, about 2 hours of cheering all night long with very little break outside of, the one bathroom break match in Dakota and Ivy, there wasn't much like I do believe that WWE fans are a little bit different than the rest of the, like an AEW fan, where AEW can run and the shows are designed differently. Like AEW runs full throttle from start to finish of a show, and so it's high energy the whole time. WWE, there's high energy, low energy, right? And so I'm also not a person that necessarily cares what the crowd feels like because of, and this is something we'll dig deeper in on Friday, is the match itself really isn't as important as we make it out to be. And it's all about the story. And so we'll talk about that on Friday. I'm going to save that rant and that show for Friday. So I talked about Dakota Kai. She wins this match. I thought this was a very good match from her, right? The cool thing about sitting in the arena is you could see the Netflix stream still on the big screen in the arena here. And so I could see up close what I couldn't really see from my seat. I didn't sit super high up, but when you're in a basketball arena, even the 100 section, I was at the very top of the 100 and like section 102, like 2 rows above me. That was it. And so, I wasn't like all the way at the ceiling, but I was about midway up in the stadium. So it wasn't super close, but like I could still see the match and it was enjoyable, but I could still watch on the screen to see like in detail what was going on. I thought Dakota Kai had one of her better matches that I can remember. I hate that a lot of the wrestling universe doesn't like this mid card because, and I think a lot of it has to do with, and if I can just be honest with you, the lack of importance that we've put on Lyra Valkyria as champion, right? So she's been, fighting to get into the Elimination Chamber. She's been backstage. She's been in the crowd. She sat ringside. Finally, we're going to get her in the ring next week. It's like a progression, right? Backstage and with the fans. Now she's ringside. Now next week she's going to be in the ring. Hopefully, that's where the progression ends, right? And it's one of those things where this is what I was saying when they brought the title in, that you have to give some sort of like respect to that title for people to care. People aren't going to care just because you put it out there for it to matter, right? And there's really no storyline. And so I've always said that titles are props to push a story, and there's no story here at all. Like when you just make the the show about Lyra defending against the number one contender, but there's no story, most of the casual audience tunes out because in the end that match doesn't matter if there's no story to make it matter. Now, y'all know me. I love Dakota Kai. I'm going to cheer for her no matter what. Excuse me. But I thought she did very good. I thought her promo was very good. I like the new music. I get confused sometimes with her when she's with Damage Control and then she's not with Damage Control. And so, the next thing I want to talk about is it's Gunther, right? So, Wavy D said, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he said a line about it's going to suck being the first city that doesn't get the encore of the Yeet, right? And I just sat there and sort of laughed it off. And I may have even made a joke. I don't remember. I may have even made a joke like, watch, it's going to be the Raw that I go to. Well, it's not a joke. That's exactly what happened. So first off, we don't start the show with Jey Uso like everyone was used to. But then when we do get a Yeet section, it's 2 minutes long. We don't get an encore. And so it would be my show that I go to, which is fine. I understand the story. I'm not all that disappointed in it, to be honest. But let's talk about how we actually started the show. We started with Sami Zayn asking for a match at Elimination Chamber against Kevin Owens. And Adam Pearce comes out and he gives this really good boss promo, corporate promo about you're not cleared and we're not taking this risk. If I put you in a match, it's going to have to be unsanctioned, and that means Kevin could put a chair around your neck and end your career, and I can't stop him, and he can do all of these different things, and I can't stop him. And Sami Zayn runs up the apron basically and says, "Look, make the match official because all those things you said Kevin Owens can do to me, I can also do to him, and you can't stop me." And Nick Aldis says, "You know what? Fine. If that's how you want it, Toronto, Canada, you and Kevin's sort of hometown, this feud, it's unsanctioned." And this is going to be a really good match. I love this promo. Like Sami Zayn sort of earning his way back into my good graces, right? And they're doing enough to make you feel for Sami Zayn, right? And I really do appreciate that, right? That promo was really good to start the show. Then we had like Dakota Kai's match, I think was next. Oh, no. Next was Dom versus Styles, which was a decent match, but it was one that like, as far as like a match goes, not the best, right? But there's a story being told here, right? And that's the story of Dom and Finn and the whole Judgment Day, and they have this big promo of at the end of the night we're all going to be winners, and we're going to have two people in the elimination chambers with Raquel and Finn, and Dom's going to win, and we're going to take care of business, and Liv's already in the elimination chamber, so that'll make 3, right? And they do this big promo, and at the end of the day, Liv's now the only one that really is a winner on the group, right? And she's not going to blame Dom, right? They're all going to blame Finn, and I think this is the beginning of the rebrand of Finn Balor, right? So AJ wins the match. Braun Breaker comes out after AJ wins, tries to spear AJ. He gets out of the way. He spears Dom, which is fun and entertaining. Got a big pop out of the crowd. But it appears we're going Braun Breaker versus AJ Styles, which is interesting because we all have Braun versus Sheamus at Mania. And I don't know if that's the actual course we go down at this point. Like I'm starting to think, you're like, what if we go AJ versus Braun at Mania? Is that where we're headed? Excuse me. I want to talk about what we just said. We did Judgment Day. We did Dakota Kai. We talked about the crowd on the TV. I want to know, really answer me the question in the comments. How did it sound on TV? Let's talk about Gunther, right? So Gunther comes out pretending to be the Yeet chant, and he's coming through the crowd like Jay does. And he leans into this promo of being, he says the line, trying to explain me performing for you would be like reading Shakespeare to a dog, right? and that got a big pop out of the crowd. I thought nothing of it. I thought it was a very good heel line. And then all of a sudden, Twitter is blowing up. My brother is one of the main ones that are blowing up about, oh my God, he stole Zack Sabre Jr.'s promo from 5 years ago. I don't even know what event this was, by the way. So Gunther repeats a line that apparently Zack Sabre said, and this causes this whole controversy mostly with my brother, just sort of, oh, I see Gunther's copying promos now. He could have at least given credit. Like, bro, this isn't your dissertation to get a grade on a project. Like, you don't have to give credit to where your promos come from. Sometimes lines are going to be repeated. That's the anti-American heel line that you're supposed to use, right? That's the gimmick he's apparently leaning into finally at this point, which bears that question, like, why is he waiting to now to do it? He should have been doing this for a few months. But I thought this was one of Gunther's best promos in a long time. Excuse me. And then the last real thing about that I want to talk about with Raw is Bianca and Naomi. They come out there. They attack during Raquel versus Roxanne. And they cause Roxanne to win, which is what I kind of assumed would happen. And this is all because of what happened Friday, where they saw the tape that we didn't see the attack, but we saw like Liv and Raquel walking away from the scene of the incident. And so I'm telling you guys, I left last night from this segment thinking to myself, I'm dead on. It's Bianca, right? Because Bianca was really the one that sort of led the charge. It was her music that played, right? And she seems to be like the mastermind trying to cover up and try to hurry up and figure out who this is. And we know exactly where this is leading, right? I still believe Bianca's the attacker. I still believe Bianca's winning Elimination Chamber. I still believe she's beating Rhea at Mania. And I still believe Jade's coming back Raw after Mania to say, no, this is what happened. Bianca did this, right? And that's how we get the feud for SummerSlam. That's where I'm at with this. And so that's Raw for me. Like, I thought it was like an 8 out of 10 Raw. Very good segments throughout the show. 5 really good matches, some good promo work. Thought everything to do. Vic Joseph did a good job filling in that role. So we typically do our MVP of the week, right? Witters suggested that we start doing some other awards every week, and I like them. So we're not going to do this first one because I'm going to call it the DJ Wavy D Best Dressed Award. This was something that Witters suggested, and I'm not looking at how people are dressed in the when they're showing up. So that's going to be a DJ Wavy D award, and if he wants to give that in the Discord, he can. And then we'll do that every Tuesday. We'll let him do that. The rest of the awards we'll give out sort of equally. So the first one is best promo of the last 7 days. And for me, I'm giving this to the Street Profits from Friday Night SmackDown. Probably one of the highlights of the night for me was the super heel promo. I love the promos where they're allowing the Profits to go now. I really like it. I'm going to give that my best promo. Best match of the last 7 days, of the last week, I'm giving that to FrAxiom versus Briggs and Inomura at Vengeance Day. Probably one of the best matches of the year so far, and could end up being one of my match of the year's contenders as we get. And when we get to December, this could be one of those matches that I sit here and I have, in consideration for that award. We have an Underwhelming Performance award. I'm going to give that to Rollins versus Balor simply because I thought it could have done better than what it did. But I think the circumstances around the match made it feel worse than it was. It wasn't any high energy. I think we kind of knew Rollins was winning. I think a lot of us, especially those in my little section, were expecting CM Punk to come out and interfere at some point, and it didn't happen. Which I'll just say from a personal standpoint, as someone who went there, like I haven't seen CM Punk live ever. I mean, y'all know I didn't get back into really into wrestling until Rumble of 2014, and that was his last event with the company for 10 years. And so I never saw him in AEW. I haven't seen him in WWE. So I was really kind of hoping he would be there. And he wasn't. So from a personal standpoint, a little bit upset, but I completely understand. Like, he needs some time off. He was really not needed on the show. And so it's perfectly fine with that. I'm a little bit upset Cena wasn't there, just selfishly as well, just because this is probably the last time we go to Charlotte with Cena on the roster, and he wasn't there. So I get it. He's filming in Hungary right now, which is fine. He's probably going to be there next week. They'll do a little round table with the 6 members of the chamber match, and it's fine. Again, completely understand the storyline, right? I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I'm a little bit upset personally, but understanding the story and how the business works, I can't be too upset, right? And then we'll get to our MVP of the week. And our MVP of the week, I think everyone has to agree, is Bayley. Right? Look at the travel that Bayley did last week. In the last 7 days, Bayley was in Nashville at Monday Night Raw last week, then at NXT in Orlando, then on Friday was in California at the NBA All-Star game for the celebrity game, and then the next night, so she plays in Orlando or in Oakland. I think it was in Oakland, right? She plays in Oakland, gets on a plane, and 24 hours later, she's main eventing Vengeance Day in Washington, D.C. That's 3,000 miles plus away from each other. And then she's in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she got on a plane, and probably the smarter move, where I drove 7 hours from D.C. back to Charlotte, she got on a plane and flew. Bayley is the MVP. She's the workhorse of the 4 horsewomen. I told you last Friday, I believe it was, that she's moved up in my order of the 4 horsewomen has changed, where it's Charlotte, Bayley, Becky, Sasha now. Bayley's that workhorse. She's mad attractive. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just seeing her in a different light. She's mad attractive, right? And BBL Bayley, mad attractive, right? I'll just end it there, right? So those are those awards. So now we'll go into the questions from Discord. Now, we got a lot of them, and this is where the conversation gets really fun with Wavy. So I hope he puts his answers in the comment section. So this first question: what 3 cartoon or anime foods or snacks would you want to eat? I'm going to be completely honest with you all. I got one answer and one answer only. It's the Krabby Patty. I don't have any other answers. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what I'm talking about, right? I don't recall. First of all, I wasn't a big cartoon fan. There were certain things that I wasn't allowed to watch growing up. But I mainly watched just Nickelodeon, and even still then, I don't recall a lot of the episodes. I don't have that type of memory. I don't remember lines in movies. I don't I remember a lot of songs. You can start, but I don't remember names of songs or artists, right? But if you start singing a song, I could probably pick up a lyric if I know it, right? And so for me, I don't remember episodes of, people will sit there and be like, well, my favorite episode of this show was, and then they'll give the episode name, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know what the hell that is. Even if I had watched it, I don't remember episode names. I don't remember actors' names. Very bad with name recognition and remembering stuff like that. So the Krabby Patty is the only realistic answer I can give you. I've never watched one episode of anime ever. And in fact, like I've said this before, in elementary and middle school, in high school, the anime kids were the kids that, like, the people I hung out with, we made fun of them. And now the people that I used to hang out with are now into anime. And so I'm just over here like, bro, we made fun of these people. Now you joining them. And I'm here by myself. And now I'm the crazy one I'm just not into it. It's just not one of those things that I find entertaining, if I'm being completely honest with you. Next question is, who has the better theme song, Matt Cardona or Cody Rhodes? I hope we're talking about WWE themes. I don't know Cardona's actual song right now. Either way, the answer is Cody Rhodes. Kingdom is one of the best wrestling themes of all time, in my opinion, because it's singable. It's a banger outside of wrestling, and I think that's it's a playable song outside of wrestling. Like, I could put that on around people who don't watch wrestling, and I think they would enjoy the song, right? Whereas a lot of wrestling songs, I don't feel like you could do that, right? Next question is, with the women's division in NXT being so red hot, do you think it's time to bring back the tag team titles? I sort of gave my answer in the Discord when B-Master asked this, but sort of didn't. So I think it's fair to remember that it's not necessarily that they got rid of it. They just merged it with the normal tag. And my answer has always been consistent on this question. Just get rid of the women's tag team division and the titles altogether. I don't think we need them. And even if we have it, they're not really using it in a way that's useful to the product. And I'm not the biggest fan of just like mixing people together as tag. Like what they're doing with Sol Ruca and Zarya, they have to do it because there's not enough room on the roster to get both of them on TV in a single spot. And I also think there's a story that's going to be told out of it where they'll feud against each other. And I think that might be the stand and deliver match. Will be Zarya versus Sol Ruca, and that's going to be a banger. But I'm not a big fan of there's no real tag division in the women, right? You have the Meta Girls, you have Fatal Influence, but you had Isla and Alba, but Isla got released, right? And Alba's going to be by herself. PFC lost the founding member, and they weren't really in the picture anyway. There's really not a lot of actual women's tag teams to put the belts on. So just get rid of them, split all the tag teams up. I don't think there's any real interest in building that division, so just let them go. I think you could put a lot more people in the mid-card and build a decent mid-card with these mid-card titles without the need of the tag championships. That's just me, though. But if you built like a legitimate tag team, like Carly Bright and what the hell is her? Laney something. They're cheerleaders. They were on NXT like 4 months ago and kind of just disappeared. One of them may have been hurt. But they're like a legitimate tag team. They sort of came in together to the PC, and so you could have made them a legitimate tag team. Or, like Sol Ruca and Danny Palmer at one time were like best of friends, and they could have been a legitimate tag team. I'm not a big fan of throwing people with random characters together, right? So like Rosemary and Wendy Chu would have worked together, right? What we got with Shotzi and Gigi and Tatum, that works as a tag team. But just throwing Sol Ruca and Zarya together, it doesn't work for me. It feels a little bit in my opinion, lazy booking. I know there's going to be a story that comes out of it. I'm just not a big fan of the women's tag division in general because there's not a legitimate tag division to build around, and so I don't know why we got titles for it if you're not going to push a story. Because obviously, like, I agree with B-Master here. Like, Bianca and Naomi are too powerful to believe any NXT team is going to beat them. So if you're going to build a roster for the tag team division, make it an actual division, and sure, then I'll be down for having championships. I don't think there's no such thing as too many championships. I just want a legitimate roster, and I don't want titles just for the sake of having titles, right? Next question. Do you think Roxanne's going to be on the card for WrestleMania? I could see it, but I think she's going to be on Stand and Deliver against Bayley. And I think they'll let Bayley work NXT for the next month or two because there's really not a place for Bayley, and I think this also benefits NXT as you're trying to build that brand up in the viewership, right? Who has the best story of the 6 in the chamber to face Cody at Mania? I think the logical choice would be CM Punk. I think Drew has a decent story in the picture. But I don't think storyline-wise anyone has a real story to face Cody. Like, that's why I was a little bit annoyed that we went the Gunther versus Jay route, because I think Jay has the best story. I think Jay and Cody had the best story. And I know this goes against the question, but I really don't think any of the 6 in the chamber actually have a story against Cody. I do think that Jay would have been the better story. Of the 6 in the chamber, I would probably say Punk or Drew. My belief and my hope is still that John Cena wins the chamber. And they give us sort of like either a passing of the torch moment with Cody beating Cena, or Cena beats Cody, gets the record, and then we move on from there. Next question is push one, fire one. This is from the Witters, and I love that he does these. We got 3 different three different things here. So you got to push one, you got to fire one. So it's Asuka or Carmella. I'm pushing Carmella because I think she's more marketable, and I'll definitely fire Asuka. Tyler Bate versus Tonga Loa. This was tougher than it seems on paper. I'm pushing Tonga Loa, though. I think that's the easy choice. Tyler Bate, to me, he's one of those. The thing with Tyler Bate where he's different than Pete Dunne. Like I said this during Raw, that Pete Dunne is one of the most boring characters on TV right now. And I don't know why he's on the roster. Go send him to All Elite down there in Jacksonville, because he fits better down there. That's just my opinion. But Tyler Bate, to me, is kind of entertaining. He's kind of silly. He's going to run a gimmick. And so I'd like to see him be pushed. But if I had to pick one, I think Tonga Loa, just because is this Tonga Loa like in the bloodline? If it's by himself, then I'm getting rid of Tonga Loa, because he's not good by himself. But if it's in the bloodline and I can push him within the bloodline, then I'll pick him. And then the last one is Dragunov for Omos. I like both of them. I think I gotta push Dragunov, though, because he's more marketable. I think he also is just better in every category that you look for. And so Omos will be fired, and we'll push Dragunov. 2 more questions. First one is, if you had to pick any active wrestlers from any company to represent you in a mixed tag match, who are you choosing? And we did get the confirmation that they don't have to be like a couple. And so my answer is any company. See, this one was just asked right before I went and recorded this, so I'm thinking about it while I'm on air here, and mixed tag team. Trying to because I want like an athletic duo. So I'm thinking like Sol Ruka, but who do I pair with Sol Ruka? All right, so here's what I want. I want a little bit of like, as much as I complain about the flips and I think this is real fun. Nathan Frazier and Sol Ruka. Nathan Frazier may be one of my favorite wrestlers on the roster, and he's just fast and athletic for too fast for no damn reason. And I think they'd pair well together. I also think, like, if we were choosing like a couple, like Braun Breaker and Izzy Dame would be an interesting pairing as well. But I'm gonna go with Sol Ruca and Nathan Frazier. And then last question: who do you think is the best and worst celebrity wrestler? Worst is Snooki by any chance. There's no reason we need a Snooki. And the best, I'm going the easy road here, and Logan Paul. Logan Paul is the best celebrity wrestler of all time. Second best would be Bad Bunny. So that's that. That's our questions from the Discord. It's a smaller episode. We'll end the segment tonight with our Thirsty Tuesday, like we always do. So let's recap last week. Last week's winners for Thirsty Tuesday. We had Jasmine Nix beating Tatum Paxley. We had Tessa Blanchard beating Gia Miller. We had Bianca. My man Chef came in clutch and had Bianca beat Kathleen Kelly. So she's now going to the semifinals. And then Harley Cameron beats Julia Hart. Again, my man Chef came in clutch. So the winners of last week will face the winners of this week in the semifinals. And to remember, the winners of next week's competition will all go to a fatal four-way the week after, and that will end the Thirsty Tuesday bracket. The final one we'll ever do. So this week's matchups from TNA, you have Jordynne Grace, and I know she's in WWE right now, but when we started this, she was in TNA, so it's going to count. From TNA, you got Jordynne Grace versus Killer Kelly. From NXT, you got Sol Ruca versus Jada Parker, which is going to be close as shit. I already know it. From the main roster WWE, you got Maxine Dupree versus Liv Morgan. And then from AEW, you have Mariah May versus Anna Jay. This is typically the part of the show where we allow Wavy D to do his final thoughts. As you can see through the show, he's not here. Again, just send your thoughts if you're praying member of the universe here at Slap and Meet Wrestling, of the audience. Send your thoughts and prayers to him. Again, not for me to share all, his life stuff. Just keep him in your thoughts. And until next time, on Friday, you're going to get a banger of a We Too Deep, another solo episode where I do my rants. But until then, we will see you next week. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Leave us a review if you're listening on audio. And if you're listening on audio, go send us a like and a subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, go listen to about 30 seconds on the audio to get like a view, and leave us a review over there. 5-star would be perfect, because 5 stars are all that matter in wrestling, right? It's 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome. But until next time, I'll see you on the next episode of the Slap and Meet Wrestling Podcast.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. AEW, WWE, we're always on side. From fantasy booking to baddies that slay. Slap and Meet Wrestling every Tuesday.